Hello, my name is Jim Frankel, and I am the founder and director of Music First. I'd like to welcome you to our virtual session today, the title of which is Differentiated and Data-Driven Instruction. We're going to be talking a little bit about how you can differentiate your instruction and how you can use data to drive instruction using the Music First classroom. So I hope you enjoy the session, and I'll be giving you all sorts of information throughout. So let's dive right in. The first thing I wanted to do is just talk a little bit about my background and why I'm so interested in differentiated instruction, assessment, and data. So I did my doctoral dissertation at Teachers College, Columbia University back in 2002. And the title of that, which, once you've written a dissertation, it kind of goes on a shelf and goes away. So it's always a pleasure to read it, is an evaluation of a web-based model of assessment for the New Jersey State Core Curriculum Content Standards in Music. So in a nutshell, back in the year 2000, which is 20 years ago, I created a website that was very similar in the kind of intent to what is today the Music First classroom. And that website was meant to be a way for students around the state of New Jersey to do authentic assessment, recording themselves and handing those recordings in, composing and handing those compositions in, taking different types of written examinations, multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, that kind of thing, and hand those in. 2002, as you may recall, was basically the dark ages of the internet. The Wi-Fi was barely a thing. You had to use dial-up modems or a hardwired connection, and the speed was extremely slow. So, for example, to send a picture or to send an audio recording might take a half an hour to upload it. Anyway, what I found back in 2002, if you were to read this little kind of quick synopsis or abstract, if you will, is that the web in 2002, I basically said, this is absolutely going to be the future, but it wasn't really all that practical back in 2002. Little did I know that 10 years after I wrote this dissertation, I would be given the opportunity to start my own company, which of course is Music First. And what I did is I brought in a whole bunch of music educators and asked them, what is it that you'd like to see built? And they all agreed that some type of website, web-based access for students and teachers would be a really great thing. And so for me, it's been an absolute joy to bring all the work that I did for my doctoral work into the product that I helped design and create called Music First Classroom. So with that in mind, let's just talk about assessment first and the ways that we assess. Now, obviously, for the past 8-9 months, and if this session, it might be a year since we've been, kind of restricted by COVID, and it hasn't been a lot of fun, has it? Assessment, especially for music educators, is something that we do all the time. And the ways that we assess, for example, if we're conducting an ensemble, we're assessing every single second. We're listening to what the students are doing. We're correcting them. We are, to me, or when I was teaching in the New Jersey public schools, I was a middle school band director. The biggest assessment for my ensembles was the concert. The administrators would be there, my fellow teachers would be there, the student body would be there, most importantly, the parents would be there. So any type of performance ensemble, the performance itself is certainly an assessment. And depending on what state you're from, it could be that there's contests that go along, whether it's all county, all region, all state. There are a lot of contests. For example, in Texas, there's UIL, and you have to bring your ensembles to be rated. And those are really formal types of assessment. So aside from performance, the other types of assessment opportunities for us are all the ones that are available to every other subject. So of course, there are quizzes, there are tests, there are compositions that students can hand in, and you're using a rubric perhaps to assess those. Students are critiquing. Students are answering questions. They're making podcasts. There's so many different ways that we assess in music education. And the good news is that technology, and specifically MusicFirst Classroom, but technology in general, really makes assessment a whole lot easier. What is formative assessment? Now, formative assessment, we know, if you think back to what I just said about rehearsing, while you're rehearsing, you can hear that your percussion section is too loud, and you're telling them, all right, you need to be softer here. Let's say that your alto saxophones keep playing F natural instead of F sharp, and you hear it right away, and you tell them, hey, no, F sharp. Saxophones, formative assessment is as it's happening, ongoing, all the time type of assessment. And that type of assessment is really, really useful. And I think music teachers do it better than anyone else. So again, with technology, formative assessment is completely possible. And I'll be showing you several software tools that do just that. We obviously, the COVID thing has probably had an impact on your program that is massive. I don't know if you're still doing student learning objectives or student growth objectives or performance proficiencies. Maybe those have gone out the window as a result of COVID. But I assure you, if they haven't, they will the minute we come back to in-person instruction. So a lot of teachers, and I won't name any names here, but I do know of music teachers that are so frightened of these SLOs, SGOs, and showing or documenting growth over time, that they give the students at the beginning of the year what's known as a pre-test, and they'll give them kind of a difficult music theory quiz, and they'll actually say the words. I do know teachers that do this, that will say the words to the students, if you do really badly, that's fine with me. So, try not to do your best. And because what you are supposed to do in theory is that at the end of the year, you give them that same exact assessment, and then you document their growth over time. So maybe they took that theory quiz in August or September and they got a 70, and then they took that exact same quiz in May and they got a 98. You can show your administrators, look at the growth of my students. Well, those are really kind of, I don't know, shallow types of assessments. If that's all you're doing is just saying they took a pre-test, now they take a post-test, check out their growth. We all know as music teachers, we're doing this all the time anyway. It's just sometimes a little hard to document. So we thought about all of that when we created MusicFirst Classroom, and I really think you're going to like the way that you can do. We have an assessment analytics that for formal assessments, but they're also the students populate their own digital portfolio throughout, so you can actually in one screen show their growth over the time they've spent with you. I always love this graphic. There's a great website. I don't know if it's still running, but it's called Wordle, W-O-R-D-L-E. And these are, word clouds, if you will. And what you can do, and I always find this really interesting, is if I find a document online, I will do a select all copy and then paste it into a program like Wordle. And so this word cloud that you see here is actually the National Core Arts Standards, the document itself. So the kind of the text at the beginning, before they get to the standards, this is all that text copied. And then the way that word clouds work is that whatever word appears more frequently, the more frequently a word appears, the larger it is in the word cloud. So what I love about this is that the biggest word is obviously assessment. So the underlying goal of those, the core art standards, is the assessment of those standards, right? I love that music is right here. It's kind of small. I love that may is like this very non-committal. Students may be able to do this, may do, but that you have, it's all about students, assessment, and then there's really, like, when I start looking for things like creativity, I don't know if I see it there. You get the idea. Obviously, assessment is really important in terms of the standards. and in terms of, the situation that we're in, pre-COVID, where it's all this kind of data-driven, as administrators they love digging into data, and assessment's a big part of our jobs, whether we like it or not. So let's just quickly shift gears for a moment and talk about what MusicFirst is. So as I alluded to it earlier, it's an online platform, but specifically, MusicFirst is the only comprehensive learning management system that was created specifically for K-12 music educators. That is a fact. There are a lot of other programs out there. There are a lot of competitors in this space, but none of them are really learning management systems. They're typically, they do one thing really well, and they might have a user management component to it. They might even have a gradebook component to it. But we are a holistic, 360-degree comprehensive approach to music education. And I really think that you'll love our learning management system. The reason that a lot of teachers have been using our platform, not only during COVID, but before as well, is that, if you compare MusicFirst Classroom to products like Google Classroom or Canvas or Schoology, if you've ever had the pleasure of opening for the very first time those platforms as a music teacher, you will notice one thing: there is absolutely nothing in it for you. There's no content, and often there's no software. Now, thankfully, there are software programs that can be integrated into these platforms, but when you open it up, there's nothing there. And if I asked you, or if I ask any music teacher, what is the most time-consuming part of teaching in COVID? Or really, what's the most time-consuming part there is? They're going to say one of two answers. The first, especially for the COVID era, is creating content for students. Like making things, going into Google Forms and creating a quiz takes a long time. But we have to collect data from students. We have to do assessment. But when you start opening up programs like Google Forms and you have to make, a screenshot and import that image and make all the choices, it takes a long time. So what happens is we don't use those assessment tools as frequently as we might want to because it's so time consuming. So MusicFirst Classroom comes with a massive library of pre-made content. There are 6 large categories, and one of them is purely assessment. So there are hundreds and hundreds of pre-made assessments for all aspects of music education. There are courses, complete year-long courses. There are units, lesson plans, tasks, which are like homework, and assessments. So on top of that content, MusicFirst also has 10 different software programs. So when we say we're really comprehensive in 360 degrees, we mean it. There are 10 different software titles to choose from, and we'll get to those in a moment. Really differentiate that's very important, especially during COVID, and if you're trying to collect data from students all the time, if you're trying to differentiate your instruction, is the kids need to be able to get to this tool if they're not with you physically in the school. So to me, as somebody who runs a music technology company, compatibility is the most important thing of all. It has to work on every single device. So for example, MusicFirst Classroom is the only platform that works on every device in terms of learning management system for music education. We work on phones, we work on tablets, we work on Chromebooks, desktop computers, laptop computers. It doesn't matter how you get to the internet, as long as you're using the Chrome browser. That is the only requirement that we have, that you use the Chrome browser. And the reason for Chrome is that all of the music software programmers love developing software for Chrome. And that's because there's a thing called Web MIDI and Web Audio, and those are part of the Chrome ecosystem. And it makes music recording, music production, music learning really, really pretty awesome. So as long as you can get to the Chrome browser, you can use MusicFirst. If your students are using iPhones or iPads, the folks at Apple have made it a little difficult for us. They do not allow the Chrome browser on an iPhone or an iPad to access the microphone. So instead, we had to create a free MusicFirst student app. This app just got a big makeover this past summer. It's really pretty awesome at this point, completely free. So yeah, if students are using iPhones or iPads at home or as part of a school issued program, they'll need to get the MusicFirst student app. And once they have that, it works. So when we talk about differentiating instruction, um, when I talk about MusicFirst Classroom specifically, we have the ability to create groups. That doesn't, sound all that exciting, but our groups can be as many groups as you'd like. So for example, let's say that you're teaching middle school band. You have some students who are very advanced, right? You have some students, or the majority of your students, who are kind of right there smack in the middle. And you have some students who might be really struggling at their instruments. You might have some students who have IEPs. You can create as many groups as you'd like. So you can create a non-timed IEP group and put your students in there. They'll have no idea that they're in that group, and you can exclude them from an assignment, right? Which is pretty cool. If you just want to give let's say you're a choir director and you just want to give your bass section an assignment, you can make a bass group and add your students to that. So groups are a really wonderful way of differentiating instruction. You can also create multiple tasks with varying objectives, and levels of difficulty. So it's really simple on our platform to create a variety of different tasks. And, for example, you can create favorite tasks. You can create tasks for your advanced group, for your kind of middle of the road group, your IEP group, your struggling group. Very, very easy to do. It is completely secure, COPPA, FERPA, New York Ed Law 2D, CCPA, you name the acronym. MusicFirst complies with all the strictest data security and privacy. So it's secure online delivery, ensures confidentiality. That means that you know that the students are doing it, and you know that there's not going to be any kind of weird outside visitors or hacking or anything like that. You can create multiple grading schemes on our platform. So for example, let's say you're at an IB school, you can make an IB grading. Let's say that you're just using the traditional A+ through F, you can use that. Or you've created your own grading system. You can use that as well. We have the ability to use multiple grading schemes, which is really helpful. And any of the content that's from our content library, you are able to adapt and edit and change and add to it. Obviously, you can make your own content, but any of the existing quizzes or tests, you can change them to fit your needs. Right, so let's move on. And let's talk about collecting data. And then we're going to look at the software and then dive into the platform itself. So we, again, as I mentioned earlier, complete digital portfolios for your students. Audio recording, as well as video uploading. Video, we do not have a video recorder, but you do have an audio recorder. But students can upload video, and you can also integrate things like Flipgrid into our platform. As I mentioned, we have built-in and customizable tasks and assessments that have already been created. We have assessment analytics, so if you do give a quiz, you have the ability to go in and look at the most frequently missed question, all the different kind of statistical analysis of the test itself. You can check where your students are struggling and where they're really getting it. We have a flexible gradebook. So again, I'm really proud of the gradebook that I designed. It is completely customizable for you, and I think you're going to like it. And our gradebook is exportable to any other grading software program. It exports as a CSV file, and then you can import that into another program. Right, so here is the collection of 10 software titles that we offer. Focus on Sound is automatically included with every single account. If you're a performance ensemble director and you want to buy Practice First, which is our automated performance assessment software, then we take away OGenerator in return for giving you a ton of content from various publishers. If you're not an ensemble director, then OGenerator is automatically included. Focus on Sound is an encyclopedia with pre-made lesson plans and hundreds of pre-made quizzes. OGenerator is a beat-making app, but it also has lesson plans for teaching kids how to compose, as well as group playing lessons, which are a lot of fun, especially with percussion instruments. Practice First, as I mentioned, is our answer to things like smart music. Sight Reading Factory is the best known and probably most popular sight reading tool that's out there on the market. Aurelia and Musician are ear training and music theory software programs that have been around for 20 years. We've created an Aurelia First and Musician First version, which is perfect for K-12. There's Flat and Noteflight are our notation partners. Both have really great features. It's really up to you which one you like the look and feel of more. Flat does live collaboration, synchronous collaboration, and Noteflight has a whole bunch, as a massive library of content, as well as a brand new feature that they launched in the summer of 2020 called Soundcheck, which allows you to assess anything that you've created in Noteflight using the exact same algorithm that we have in Practice First. So it's a nice little partnership there. And then we have two digital audio workstation software programs, Soundation for Education and Soundtrap. Soundation for Education is perfect for Chromebooks, but it does not work on iOS devices, unfortunately. So when teachers come to us, we always ask a lot of questions. And if they say, I really want to do, music production with my students, I want them to be able to record, we'll always say, do a lot of your students use iPhones and iPads? And if they say yes, then we get them to Soundtrap, which does work on iOS devices. Anyway, those are the 10 titles. It literally covers every single aspect of music education. We do have a K-5 platform called MusicFirst Junior, which I'm not talking about today, but please check that out at musicfirst.com. But why don't we, I think I've talked enough at this point. Why don't we dive in and take a look at the actual platform? So I'm going to escape out of my presentation and jump into the dashboard. So here I am. I'm just going to make sure that I'm still logged in. I'm just refreshing. Yep. So here I am as a teacher. I've logged in and I can see the classes that I'm currently teaching. For this session, I've made a brand new class called Main Street Middle School Band, very kind of generic sounding school. And here I am, and once I'm in the classroom, I can do all sorts of things. First of all, I have no students, so I'm going to add let me go in and add a student. Actually, I do have a student named Passaic, which is, I was doing a training for Passaic, New Jersey, and I named that student Passaic. So there is a student. You can bulk upload students into here. You can give them invitations and they can register for them, register themselves, or you can add them one by one. What we highly recommend is that the site admin bulk uploads all the students, and then you can click on Add Existing Students and choose them from a drop-down menu, which it saves you a lot of time. Anyway, so this is my class. Now, how on earth do I start, what else is there for me in here that differentiates this from Google Classroom, Canvas, and Schoology? Well, here we go. There's a software tab. When I click on that software tab, these are the 10 that I have. Now, these are all optional. I mentioned earlier, Focus on Sound is automatically included, but the rest are kind of on the optional side. So you don't have, no teacher that I know has everything, right? So you're going to pick and choose depending on what you teach. So if you're a performance ensemble director, it's highly likely that you're going to look at Practice First and Sight Reading Factory. After those, people love the ear training and music theory software as well as notation. And if you're having to do like virtual ensemble recordings, Soundtrap and Soundation are both great. Soundtrap is the more popular of the two. I'm going to click on Practice First because it's the most popular. When we talk about differentiating instruction, when we talk about data-driven instruction, there's a lot of really great stuff here. So I'm going to, I do not have my instrument with me, so I'm going to choose voice. A lot of competitors like to say, oh, well, Practice First doesn't have that much content. That's just simply not true. We have almost 40,000 pieces of content, and it's growing all the time. We have a huge premium content library that you can do like an a la carte and buy just the pieces that you're working on. We have a catalog. So while everyone says, oh, they don't have a lot of content, it's just simply not true. So what I'm going to do is I chose voice. I'm going to choose something really short and sweet so that you don't have to hear me sing a whole lot. So I'm going to go in and let's do NISMA sight singing. So I'm from New York. I know these sight singing exercises really well. So I'm going to do sight reading level 1 exercise 4, which I don't think I've done recently. And I'm going to choose bass from the bass clef, from the score, and I'm going to record myself. When I click on record, I'm able to hear a opening pitch, then I get a count in. After I've done this, and I'll make a few mistakes, I'll show you how you can differentiate this with your students, depending on their skill level. So I'm going to click record, and here we go. Wish me luck. Do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, fa, mi, re, fa, mi, do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do. I think I nailed it. All right, so I got an 80. This type of granularity on the assessment feedback is really important. The 80 means that this is not good enough to turn in, right? We've actually set a scoring threshold of a 90 or better. You can adjust that. I'll get to that in a little bit. So this is the participation trophy. I sang 100% of it. That actually bears in on the average. If you sang less than it, it would affect your score. My pitch score was an 83, and you might have noticed that I got a few pitches a little, a little flat or a little totally wrong, and my rhythmic score was a 77. Now, one of the things that we really find exciting, or we think is really great, is that with other products, especially the last two measures, you notice that I rushed. I got faster and faster. With other products, I would have gotten every single one of these notes wrong. And the reason for that is that it's only listening for, did you sing or play the right pitch at the exact right time? And if you don't, then it's wrong. So what we do here, I call this this ongoing line underneath the music, a psychedelic slug trail. You'll have to forgive me, but what you'll see here, when the line goes up, when you see any variation in the horizontal, it means that my tempo varied. So if there's a dip, it means I slowed down. And if there's a rise, it means I sped up. So this means you sped up and then you kept at that fast tempo. So you were above the right tempo. That's a really great thing. You can then go in and mouse over and see all the things you've done wrong, right? I'm flat, I got the wrong note, you cut this off early, you were really fast, you get the idea. So that's some really rich feedback. By the way, that is one way to look at the feedback. There is another. If you go in here, you can look at simple feedback. Simple feedback just eliminates the gradations of color. Yellow means that something was wrong, but it wasn't wrong enough. Green means it was right. Red means it was completely wrong. You sang the wrong note, right? So that simple feedback is great for younger students, or if you really want to get into that full feedback, you can do that and see the tempo variation as well. So I'm going to come back to Practice First in a little bit to show you the differentiation. I just want to show you one other software program before I do that, and that is Sight Reading Factory. So I'm going to open up Sight Reading Factory. I'm going to click Start Sight Reading. Again, I'm going to choose voice. So I'm going to choose bass. I'm going to choose something easy, level 2. I'm going to choose the 4/4 time signature, C major, and I'm going to do challenge mode. What challenge mode is I'm going to get a countdown clock, and then I'm going to have to start recording whatever it shows up on the screen. So I click countdown. It says you're going to get 10 seconds, Jim. And the audio will be off, the cursor will be on, the metronome will be on. You can just turn these, toggle them on and off. So I'm going to click start. Let's try this. I'm going to wish myself some luck. All right, let me hear that opening pitch. Okay, here we go. Do, ti, do, mi, so, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, mi, do, ti, do, do. All right, not bad for somebody. By the way, that sight reading example is different for every single student, and that will never appear again. It's a once and done. It's a really beautiful composition algorithm that the folks at Sight Reading Factory made, so that you'll never see the same example twice. It's pure sight reading every time. So I'm going to click next. And if I do that, it gives me another one. So I can keep going on and on. So you see how Sight Reading Factory works. You can use this with ensembles, band, choir, orchestra. You can use it on a variety of different instruments. Really a great tool. So let's talk about differentiating it and all the different types of kind of data that you can collect from your students. So I'm in my middle school band class. I'm going to click Create Task. So what is this task? This is going to be called recording number 2. Let's make it number 1 because it's the first one we're doing. What type of task? We have 10 different task types. By the way, for those of you that are existing customers, we added a new task type called an evaluation. And that means that you can fill out an audition evaluation form or any kind of evaluation form you'd like. We're not going to use that right now because we're making an audio recording. So I'll click Record Audio. And I'm going to say, please record yourself singing the song that we learned in class today. Do your best, right? So there's some instructions. When is this going to be due? This is going to be due, I'm recording this in early December of 2020. I'm going to make this due Friday, December 11th. Now this button right here is the first moment that we can look at differentiation. So it says assign to all in class. If I deselect this, I can choose specific students to assign it to, or I can assign it to specific groups. Because I just made this class, there are no groups yet. But what I can do is say, you know what, I only want this one student to do this assignment. Or I only want these 3 students, as many students as you want. You can completely differentiate it. Or you can just click assign to all in class and every single kid in the class will get it. You can tag it to the different standards that are available. You can create your own set of standards. I'm going to go to the National Core Art Standards. I'm going to open up the Perform, and I'm going to say I want the students to just do anchor standard number 4 and 5 when they're singing this song. I'm going to add this to the gradebook. I'm going to make it worth 100 points. I can, if I want to, I can add a grading rubric. In the interest of time, I'm not going to do that, but you can create your own grading rubric and put in things like tone and how many points it's worth. But for now, not going to use a grading rubric. I'm going to click Create Task. So now that I've done that, I have my very first task ready for my students called recording number 1. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is create a critique task. I want my students to watch a performance and then write about it. So I'm going to click Create Task. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is go to YouTube. I'm going to look up one of my favorite band composers, Mr. Frank Ticheli. And there's a great, let's see if I have there we go. Angels in the Architecture from the University of Texas. I'm going to copy that YouTube link. So I copy that link and I'm going to say critique this performance, right? So what type of task is this? This is going to be a writing task. It could also be a watch. Why don't we use watch instead? What do you want the student's response to be? So again, collecting data. Nothing means just watch it and enjoy. File upload. We, upload a Microsoft Word file, upload a PDF, upload an image, take a picture of something that you created and upload an image. Freeform text field, which is what I'm going to use here, which is where I want the students to type their critique right in the platform. Or you can also have the students submit a web link if that's something like from their Google Drive or Flipgrid or anything like that. You can have them submit any web link for assessment. So I'm going to say freeform text field. I'm going to say watch this performance and then write a 200-word critique using your best musical vocabulary. Okay. I'm then going to embed that video. There's an embed media button. I just paste that YouTube video in. I click OK. There we go. There's Frank Tikelli's Angels in the Architecture. Now, again, I can assign it. I can decide whether or not, when this is due. I'm going to make this due on December 21st. Again, I can differentiate it if I want to. I can add it, I can tag it to whatever standards are appropriate. For me, this is going to be the Respond standard. I'm going to add this to the gradebook as well, make it worth 100 points. Again, normally for critique, I would be using a rubric, but for now, I'm just going to click Create Task. And you'll see that I now have a performance critique ready to go. When I go on my class overview, you'll see that these two assignments that I've created are here. If I don't like the order they're in, I can just literally click and drag, move them around. That's really nice to do. So the next thing I'm going to do is a practice first assignment, and I'm going to differentiate this one. So I'm going to say, play this piece the best you can, all right? The task type is going to be MusicFirst Software, because we're going to be using Practice First. And I'm going to say play this piece. Really clear instructions. When is this due? This will be due on December 23rd, right before Christmas. We're going to add this to the gradebook, make it worth 100 points, just like we did for the previous two assignments. We're going to click Create Task. But now let's get into the differentiation part. So the very first thing I have to do is actually now link this task to Practice First. So I'll do that. I click and open it. And I need to go find a piece for my students to perform. So I'm going to go in here, and I know that I just uploaded some fun things. Let's go here, holiday tunes and carols for choir. So I'm going to do Old Lang Syne, right? That should be nice and short. So here is how you differentiate. If I go in, by the way, the students will be able to pick their part, so that's really easy. But this is where it gets very interesting. When I click Assign to Student, it brings this kind of menu up that says Create Assignment, and there's a thing called Show Advanced Options. So watch what I can do. I can decide what is that score goal. So if you remember earlier, I got an 80 and it was yellow. That's because the score goal default is 90. I can take that down and make it 80 points. Let's say you have a student who's really struggling. Let's make that score goal 60 points. What that means is if you get over a 60, you can hand it in. For now, I'm going to keep it at 80 because I think that's a good threshold. This grading drop-down menu is the rigor of the assessment algorithm. So I'm going to make this easy. With younger students, you can customize it for them, or you can create a task for just one student. Make the grading algorithm easy. The tempo goal. Do you want the students to be able to adjust the tempo? Well, then turn that off. The kids can play it at any tempo they want, and they won't be graded down for it. Which is great, by the way, especially with younger students. Or if you have, older or advanced students, you could say, no, you have to play it at exactly the tempo. Now, this 100 does not mean 100 BPM. It means 100% of the assigned tempo. So what you could also do is say, you know what, you can play it up to 90%. So if you really need to, you can slow it down a little bit, by 10%. But for now, let's keep it at 100. What playing mode? Playing mode is when the students are playing, there's 3 different ways to do it. Free mode, the cursor follows the students. And for some kids, that's really confusing. So we always recommend either with the metronome or with the backing track if you happen to have one. In this case, let me go here to the score. I think, yeah, I'm going to choose with metronome because that always gives me the best results. Special type. Regular is just as you see it, earlier, but there's a sight reading one, and that's wonderful because it turns off the play button. And so what that does is make anything a sight reading activity for assessment. And then there's memorization, which will literally turn off the music, or it will make the sheet music disappear the minute the student hits record. And then down here, last but not least, you can limit the number of attempts that the students can do before they have to submit it. In this case, I'm going to make it unlimited, and I'm clicking Add. So all of those little options are perfect for both differentiation as well as the data that you're going to collect from the kids. What are they going to be handing into you? So that is my practice first assignment. I'm going to do one more task for you, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like as a student. So in this one, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and use a different software title called Focus on Sound. Focus on Sound, as I mentioned earlier, has hundreds and hundreds of pre-made quizzes. So I'm going to make this quiz on brass instruments. So what type of task is this? It's MusicFirst Software. We're going to be using Focus on Sound, and I'm going to say, take this quiz on brass instruments. The best part of this is I don't have to make that quiz. It's already there for me. I'm going to make this one due in January, the day they get back from their vacations. I'm not going to tag it to the standards. I am going to add it to the gradebook, also make it worth 100 points, and click Create Task. So just like I did with Practice First, what I need to do now is link this task with the actual quiz in Focus on Sound. So I click Open in Focus on Sound. It launches Focus on Sound. Whenever you're doing a task, you're going to use the edit mode. So I then go to Tests, and then I find the test that I want to give my students. And I said it would be on brass, so I click Brass. And let's do this one on all brass instruments, level 1. You could do level 1 and 2 for more advanced students and do 2 different assignments, but I'm going to do level 1. And once you get to that first page of the quiz, there's a button up here called Attach. That will send the kids directly to this quiz when they click on it. So I click Attach. Are you sure? Yes, I am. So I've successfully attached the quiz. The window closes. I'm ready to go. So I've just created 4 ways of collecting data from my students: an audio recording, a written assignment, a performance assessment, and a written quiz that I didn't have to create. So I'm going to go now as a student. So I'm logged in as a student. Let me just refresh to make sure. Yep, let me go and log in again. There's a timeout. That's for security purposes. So I log in as a student. And on the Main Street Middle School Band, I'm registered for 3 classes. Up here, there's a little 4. That means I have 4 assignments that are due. So I click on it, and here are the 4 assignments. I'm going to do them in the same order. I'm going to go to recording number 1. I'm going to allow access to my microphone. I can choose a metronome or a count in or what BPM I want, but I'm just going to click Start Recording. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear music teacher. Happy birthday to you. Stop recording. I can preview it. Happy birthday to you. That's fabulous. I can either throw it out and record again, or I can click Submit, which is what I'm going to do. All right, so I've done with that assignment. Let me go back into my class, see what else I have to do. Critique this performance. So I click on that. I watch the performance. Hooray for the University of Texas Wind Ensemble. Let's go a little ahead so we can just jump to hear some music. This performance was amazing. I think the conductor is very good. They are so much better than our band. Smiley face. All right, submit response. So I'm done with my amazing critique. I go back into the class, and now let's go to the more involved ones, if you will. So play this piece the best you can. I click on it. I'm going to click Open in Practice First. I'm going to have to sing Old Lang Syne, I just realized, so you'll have to forgive me. I'm going to go to the bass part. And I am going to, let me play it so I hear that opening. All right, here we go. I'm going to click record. Wish me luck. I'm going to allow access to my microphone. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne? For day lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne. We'll take a cup of honest yet old lang syne. All right, I probably didn't do very well, but here, let's see. Oh, I got an 83. I'm very, very pleased with that. I'm going to click submit. That was the easy grading mode, which is obviously very forgiving. So I click submit. Hooray, I'm done with that. I don't want to do that again. I got a bunch of notes wrong. So let me go in here now and do focus on sound quiz. My apologies for my poor sight singing. So I'm going to click open and focus on sound. And I get right to that quiz. Press the audio start button to reveal the picture. What instrument? That's a trumpet. Let's click next. So I'm going to go really quickly through this because there are 20 questions, but it'll give you an idea of what's in here. Trombone. I'm going to get this next question wrong on purpose. I'm a tuba player, so this is hard to get wrong. I'm going to say trumpet. Next. All right, trombone. Next. French horn. Next. Trumpet. All right, next. So different types of questions, which is great. Lowest pitch brass instrument. Hooray. French horn. Trumpet. Again, a variety of question types. Hooray, tuba. Next. Press audio. Trumpet. Next. French horn. Okay, just a couple more questions, but you're getting the idea. Identify which of these is a trombone. All right, I'm going to get this next one wrong. The orchestral version of this instrument is 12 foot of tubing. I'm going to say trumpet. I knew that was a tuba. French horn. This is a trombone again. So some of the questions are obviously, I mean, there are only so many brass instruments, I guess. There we go. All right, there's a trumpet, and I'm going to click continue and save. Do you want to submit this? Yes, I do. So I've now completed all 4 of those assignments. And I'm going to show you now what that looks like for the teacher in terms of the data collection that you can do. So let me go back in as a teacher. I'm going to click on Main Street Middle School Band, and you'll see even though I submitted 4 assignments for assessment, only 2 of them are needed to be graded. And that the reason for that is that the focus on sound assignment was automatically graded, and the practice first assignment was automatically graded. Let me show you where they are. They live in the gradebook. So if I click on gradebook, those 4 assignments are already here. I got a 90 on my brass quiz and an 83 on my assessment. You'll see here that I can do all sorts of things with the gradebook, which I'll come back to in a minute. I can make assessment groups, gradebook items, reorder the grades, do all kinds of things. But what I'm going to do now is go back and show you. Let's go to the critique first. So when I go down here, it says that the student handed this in. If I click on the submission itself, there's a pop-up window and I could read their submission. Now, when you're assessing many, many students, this is really, really helpful to have the assessment not open in a new window, but just right there so that you can grade it. So I'm going to give this student an 88, and I'm going to send them a comment that says it wasn't long enough. All right, it was supposed to be 200 words. So add comment. Now, what I can do is, let's say you have a student that's struggling and you want to differentiate this for them in some way. You can clear submission. In the comments, you could tell them, give them new instructions. Clearing the submission makes that assignment available for the student again. So the last thing I need to grade is this audio recording. So I'm going to go in here. And just like that critique, when I click on the submission, there's a pop-up window with the recording right there for me to listen to. I didn't have to download it and open another program. Happy birthday. We do not need to hear that again. I'm going to give this student a 100, and I'm going to, as they wished me a happy birthday, I'm going to say thank you. Right? So those are, or that is how I can grade those assignments. But let me also show you, if I go to the grade book and I want to see, it says play this piece the best you can. If I click on the paperclip, I can go in and see exactly the piece that the student played, and I can play their recording. Good old acquaintance be forgot. All right, that's really wonderful. And the good part of being able to go in and listen to that student's recording is that, you know, software is software. It's not a teacher. So it gave them an 83. I can absolutely go in there and change the grade, and I'm going to give them a 92 because I think that's probably much fairer based, you know, I don't like getting any, you know, low scores like that. And then the focus on sound quiz, again, there's the paperclip. If I click it, it opens up the quiz and I can see exactly what the student did wrong. It shows question by question, what answer they wrote, and then what the correct answer is, right? So this is showing you really great kind of granular details for the students. They got 2 questions wrong, okay? So I can close that and say, you know what, that's fine, that they got a 90. Now, the best part, when I talked about digital portfolios earlier, if you click on the student's name in the gradebook, it brings up all of the work that they've done for you in that class, which is really good. It's in one quick spot. You can, hey, I want to hear this submission. Great, there it is. Hey, I want to see this. Great, here it is, right? So back to that gradebook, because there's some other really cool things you can do in here. You can add assessment groups to your gradebook. So for example, I want to do performance task. So anytime a student does a performance, it's going to go in that group. And I also want to make a critique group. And I'm going to also create, I think, let's put general knowledge. That's good, general knowledge. Save. So now that I've made these 3 groups, they don't show up on the gradebook. You might say, well, what's the point of that? There's this little button here called Reorder Grades. I click on that, and it gives me those 3 groups, and then I can just take them and drag them into here. So here are the 2 performance tasks. There's the critique. There's the general knowledge. I can click Save, and now look what my gradebook looks like. A whole lot, a lot more organized, if you will. So every assessment group has an average. So I know that my student is doing really well in the performance side of things. Their critique wasn't very good, and their general knowledge needs a little bit of improvement. But on the most part, this student is doing pretty well with an A- in my class, which is great. So what I'd like to do now is shift gears to the content library, because as I mentioned at the very beginning of the session, our content library has 6 broad categories of content. And again, that is courses, units, lesson plans, tasks, and of course, assessments. So let's click on the MusicFirst Assessment category. In here, there's a whole lot of quizzes. So let's go on the note naming quizzes. And if I find a quiz that this is in fact an entire collection of note naming quizzes. If I go, oh my goodness, this is great, I can click Use Unit Now. And when I use Unit Now, it says, well, which class would you like to use it with? Well, I want to do it with my Main Street Middle School Band. So now I'm literally taking that unit from the library and copying it directly into my Main Street Middle School Band. So this is kind of cool. Now I have all these quizzes. So it says treble and note naming quiz. You'll see that they're grayed out. That means that I don't want my students to see them yet. If you're ready for them to see it, let's do quiz number 1, treble clef. I can just click make visible, right? And now that quiz is visible for my students. See how it turned to bold? So now it's visible. Watch what happens if I go in now as a student, click on Main Street Middle School Band. Oop, there it is. Note name quiz number 1. Let me go in and take it. Right? Actually, what I'm going to do before I do that is just make sure, I'm going to open up this quiz and make sure that the point values are the way I want them, because I haven't decided how many points this is worth. So it's always good to go in and check. So I'm going to edit the assessment just to show you what is in here. And let's go actually to manage questions. See how many points all these are worth. So right now, all these questions are worth 1 point. It says it right there. So the entire quiz is going to be worth 10 points. Well, that's fine with me. If I wanted to, I can actually go in and change the point value for each question here, right? but I'm going to keep it at 1 for now. Now I'm going to go back as a student and I'm going to start the assessment and show you how this works. I go in, what note name is this? I'm going to get some of these correct and some of them wrong. This is an F. This I know is an A, but I'm going to put it's a G. This is an E. This is an F. By the way, if you've ever made this in Google Forms, you know how much work it is to take, open up a notation program and make a picture of that and then save it and then import it. It's a pain. This is a D. This is a B. This is a G. We're down to D. I've got maybe one more question. Yep, here we go, E. I'm going to click Finish and Submit Assessment. Now, if you were playing along at home, you know that I got a 9 out of 10 on that. So let's see what happens. All right, it says your assessment was submitted successfully. Let's go back here to my Main Street Middle School band. Hey, I have nothing to grade. That's because it was auto-graded. If I go to my grade book, I can see that I had a, let's go scroll over here. There, I got a 90. So what I can do is reorder the grades, and I'm going to go find that note naming quiz number 1 and drag that to general knowledge, let go. I'm going to come back to my grade book. Oh, wait, I need to save it. Thanks for the reminder, MusicFirst. So I save that, and now the note name quiz is in the general knowledge, right? And all those other quizzes that I brought in are right now not categorized, if you will. So that's really, really helpful. If I click on this note naming quiz, and I'll click View Task, it takes me back here. This is the Results tab that I mentioned, the Assessment Analytics. Now, obviously, I only have one student. If you have multiple students, then this button's really interesting. I'm going to click Results just to show you what our assessment analytics look like, right? So it's basically saying, because only one student, the average score was a 90, the minimum and the maximum is a 90. Frequently missed questions. Well, I got question number 3 wrong. 0 people have got this one right. So then it goes question by question. And the more students you have, the more columns you'll have, and it'll show how many students got it. But this is, from a statistics standpoint, this is really great information when you have a lot of students taking a quiz. And that only works, this assessment analytics only works with our assessment content type. It doesn't work with other ones, but still, when I go back to this gradebook, I've got some really great data here. And I was able to differentiate the instruction by choosing the different difficulty levels, that kind of thing. Anyway, I'm going to bring it back to the slide deck now just to wrap things up super quick. We have 2 products. As I mentioned earlier, just to give you an idea on pricing, which is always a question that comes up. The MusicFirst Classroom is what I've been showing you for the last hour. The prices start at $4 per user per year, minimum of 50 users. And that gets you Focus on Sound, OGenerator, and all of the MusicFirst Classroom and content. The minute you start adding software, for example, Practice First, which as of January is $4 per user. So you go from that base price of $4, now you've added Practice First, you're at $8 a user. If you add Sight Reading Factory, that's $2 additional. So now you're at $10 a user. So most teachers are doing that. They're right around that $10 a user per year. But this price can go all the way up to $24 if you bought every single piece of software. And believe it or not, while that might sound like a lot of money, some of our competitors are even more money than that, or they're comparable for just one software title. So for everything, for all 10, I believe, is $24 a user. And then as I mentioned earlier, MusicFirst Junior, which is our K-5 platform, is $399 per school per year, unlimited users. You just, however many you want, that's fine. Anyway, I'm just about out of time, so if you want a free trial of MusicFirst, go to musicfirst.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, click the free trial, fill out your information, and we'll get you the MusicFirst Classroom credentials as soon as we can. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We have a fabulous bi-weekly podcast that features music teachers from around the country. And right now it's great because we're talking almost all the time about how you're teaching in the COVID era. And we also have our MusicFirst videos. Our tech support department is second to none. They're all music teachers. They speak fluent music teacher, and they're there to help you by phone or by email or by the tutorial videos and the manual. I think you're going to love them. Anyway, thank you so much for being with me today. Hope you learned a little bit. My email is jim@musicfirst.com if you have any specific questions for me. Take care and have a great rest of the conference and a great rest of the school year. Take care.